Right. Well, we're going to finish up this section we started yesterday by doing some example problems. You have these in your packet I gave you. If you don't have the packet, then see me after class. So I'll give you a copy. All right. It says a model rocket with an initial velocity of 100 feet per second launched from the top of a hill 20 feet high. Its height in feet t seconds after launch is given by the function s of t equals negative 16, 100t plus 20. Determine the time when it reaches this maximum height and determine the height. So, looking at our function, number 6, section 3. What do we notice about this function? Just by looking at it first, and then we'll describe what the graph's going to look like. Why is it negative 16? Why is it 100? Why is it 20? First off, what's that? No distance. Well, has the rocket even launched yet with this equation? No. What do we know about it? So if we draw a picture, whenever you have a word problem, always draw a picture. Here we have a hill. What do we know about the top of the hill? It's 20 feet high. So from here to here, it's 20 feet. Well, that's what that is. That's your initial height, your starting position. And there's your rocket with its fins and everything. It takes off. It takes off at 100 feet per second. That's the initial velocity. It's denoted by v sub 0. H sub 0 is your initial height. So in general, you'll see equations like this. These numbers won't be given to you. You'll have the general formula, and you have to plug in all the information you're given. Now, what do you think negative 16 is all about? What's that? What makes it slow down? What's the only force that acts on everything? Gravity. That's gravity. Is that me? There's nothing you hold.
Electromagnetism acts on charged particles. Strong and weak nuclear forces act only over
So it tells you
extremely short
something.
distances within a time.
I haven't used my phone since last night. It's been listening to me. That's scary. So let me turn this guy off. That's pretty scary because I haven't used it, and it's been listening. So it tells you your phones, your watches, anything smart you have on you keeps a tab on you all the time. Yeah, and that's right. It'll always guide you to those kind of videos. And if you look for some kind of shopping, that's pretty scary. So, because I'm thinking about going back down to the dumb phones that we used to have back in the first days when they started. That's pretty scary. So gravity. Now, gravity is given to you in two ways, depending on which unit of measurements you're using. We have metric and SAE, which is the rest of the world. Well, mostly us. The rest of the world uses metric. We're the only ones dumb enough to use inches, feet, miles, which is so inaccurate. Well, I'm surprised that we have anything that flies or drives. Because here's the thing about it, even though we don't teach it in schools, all engineers have to use the metric system because it's a lot more accurate. The metric system, gravity is 9.8 meters per second. Everybody says a meter is like a yard. Yeah, I guess. It's 3.2, 3 feet, 2 inches. In SAE, gravity is 16 feet per second. Now, why is it negative? The standard is the standard something association is it's how the rest of the world agrees on measurements. Why is it negative? No, which direction does it always pull? Always goes down. Gravity never pushes away. So it's always a force that acts straight down. Because now you have to determine which direction you're going. If you're going up, it's positive. If it's going down, it's negative. Now, since they said we're at 100 feet per second, that's our initial velocity. Actually, it's 100 feet per second squared. It's an acceleration. Gravity's acceleration. So, because of this, we know the graph looks like what? It's a parabola. So we know once the rocket takes off, it has to come back down to the ground. Because it's a parabola, what is this point called? Well, there was another name for that we talked about yesterday. It is a maximum, yes. What's another name for it? It's a vertex. Vertices is plural, vertex is singular. So it's the vertex. So this question is asking, determine the time when it reaches its highest point. And then what is that highest point? Well, what's a number? It's not going to say, oh, it's the vertex. No, what's the number? No, we don't know yet, which we haven't calculated. It starts off at 20 feet. The rocket takes off at 100 feet per second squared. Eventually, what happens is, as you said, it's a force. Gravity is negative. It acts against that rocket. As the rocket goes up, the gravity is slowing it down. Eventually, what happens? It runs out of power because the gravity sucked it all away. It starts coming back down. What we want to know is what is in a graph, what is this height? And at time t equals 0, the subscripts, it's a counter. At time equals 0, t0, at t sub 0, that's the initial. That's what everything starts at 0. And then it counts off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we want to know at what time does it reach its highest point? So far, so good. Now, the vertex is given by 2 points, or 2 values, an ordered pair. We talked about yesterday, they were HK. But now, that HK represents the vertex, the highest point. So what variables are we using? What variable do we use for height? For H, sorry, not H. Nope. That's H right there. H is there. But we don't have H in here. Nope. Whenever you talk about any motion problems, anything that moves, anything that changes, what's the only thing that's constant when it comes to change? What can we not what can we not change? What can never go backwards? Time. So whenever you deal with things that move, the X variable is always time. So the time value is here. Whatever time we have, we plug in our equation, and that gives us our height. So that's what the height is. So this one is the height is a position. That's what the S stands for. It's the position function. It tells you where is that position of this object. Because if you think about it, at T sub 0, what is the time when it's sitting up there? Has the clock even started? No. So it's 0. When T equals 0, what is this equal? So when T equals 0, what do we have? That goes to 0, that's 0. So we just have 20 feet, which is the position we're sitting. So this is S sub 0. What we have to do is we have to find the value of T, plug it in there, and then that'll tell us our height. So far, so good. But now the question is, how do we find the value for T? We talked about this yesterday. How do we find the value for T? Again, I know you guys don't look at your notes. 90% of you don't look at your notes after you finish class. So go ahead and flip through your notes for yesterday's and see what you wrote down for the T value for a vertex. If you didn't write it down, I'm sorry. Oh, by the way, I'm going to put the respondus on the tests. So all your tests will be taken whenever you want to, but you'll be videotaped. Your access to anything else other than the computer, the calculator you have on the computer, everything else will be locked while you're on the test. You cannot go to any web pages. You can't do anything else. So, and if you use any external media, it's videotaping you, and I'll watch the video. If I see you get your cell phone doing anything like this, automatically, what question? I don't care who you're. If it's your mother or your or God texting you, you'll get a 0 for that test. You cannot use any extra while you're on. It's an hour and 10 minutes long, or 110 minutes long test. You cannot use anything while you're taking that test, except because you use your notes, but no cheating. Okay, so I just give you that warning. Anybody find it yet? Why aren't you guys looking at your notes? Everybody should be looking at your notes and try to figure out how do we find the time value. Nope, that's distance. There's not. We're looking at distance here. We're looking for the vertex. I only want the information for the vertex. See, this is the reason why I'm gonna start videotaping people, because with responses like this, and yet people still make hundreds and 90s on my exams and they can't answer a basic question like this. I can't have that. If you look in your notes, you'll see how we defined the vertex yesterday. What is the x value of the vertex? What's that? No, that's the a value. Look for where we find the vertex. Okay, I don't have time to waste. The vertex, negative b over 2a. Once you find that, then you plug it back into your equation. That finds the y value. That's in your notes. That's in the video when I sent it to you. But those of you here, I'm not going to ask any reasons why you guys don't know this yet. It's the last thing we talked about yesterday. So, since this is the x value, in our case, it's the t value. It's negative b over 2a. So what is negative b, or what is b? B is 100. What is a? Negative 16. So we got negative 100 over negative 32. The negatives cancel. They're divisible by 2. 50 over 16. 25 over 8. 8 goes into 25 3 times with 1 left over. But actually, I'll use this. So that tells you relatively 3 seconds after takeoff, you're at your highest point. How do we know it's seconds? Because our units are per second. So the time factors we're looking at are per second. So that's the time. 25 over 8. So the height, that's the next one. That's your position function. So I take my time, which is 25 over 8, plug it in the equation. Negative 16, 25 over 8 squared, plus 125 over 8, plus 20. Work that out. So if you use your calculator, this 3 1/8 is 3.125. And then your position at 3.125 gives you something like 176.25 feet. This is how long it took to get there. This is how high it went. I can't stress enough how important it is to look over your notes. Yes, I really have. Unless you have jobs, you have nothing else to do after school than to study. And remember, I'm not going to extend your deadlines. If you don't do the work, I don't care if the system goes down. I don't care if the network goes down on the last 2 days. You had the rest of the semester to do the work. I will not give you an extension. You'll get zeros for whatever you haven't done. I can't stress this enough, ladies and gentlemen. No, since I mean, I'll just be doing the work myself since you guys haven't done anything yet. So I'll give you that example. And you can do the rest of the work at home on your homework assignments. All right, so that finishes up this section. Section 3. There are about 4 or 5 more word problems, but no, I'm not going to do that because I'm just talking to myself.